Shout out to the pig-headed fucking racists at Red Eye Radio, Eric Harley and Gary McNamara. They were talking about statistics about police encounters with black people tonight to try and show that Colin Kaepernick isn't really protesting for anything legitimate. They were so vague about it. They talked about 26 million police stops of vehicles a year in America, and they talked about just like a mention of some vague amount of encounters being with black people, and then nothing really got clear after that. They didn't mention anything else. They didn't mention the egregious uses of force against black people, the amount of times that uses of force against black people, especially unarmed black men, and the killing of them get covered up. The fact that prosecutors don't even bring charges against these cops, and then they whine about, you gotta have due process, need due process. There is no fucking due process for these people killed. And then they use the old, like the politicians' tactics who used to love the KKK, who would criticize Martin Luther King. These guys do the same thing to Colin Kaepernick. They say he's a communist. They immediately shift topics. So it's like this amorphous, opaque sphere. Black Lives Matter inside there. You can't really see, well, what's going on with these statistics? Can't see anything like high bail bonds, which means black people in poverty can't afford to bail themselves out of jail. So they end up being in jail for months and years in torturous conditions. The fact that marijuana arrests for blacks are much higher than whites, and marijuana punishments for blacks are higher and disproportionately higher than whites. Crack cocaine sentencing, the disparity between that and regular cocaine that white people get. It is so absurd, embarrassing. They're not even trying to hide that they're not racist. They're like, these black people, what? They just don't understand. They're not white. It's not racist if you're not human. And they don't even address any of these specific topics. They're just like, these blacks, they just have this hatred of white people. Why do they act like black people see their neighbors and their family members being killed by the police, and that they're not legitimately grieving, they're not legitimately angry, but they're somehow, it's like they're so psychopathic that they know they can use that to assault the police and to insult the police and inspire cop hatred. How do Eric Harley and Gary McNamara, these pighead fucking racists, get from black people being egregiously killed by the police and abused and assaulted and left to languish in jail, not given proper defenses, prosecutors using all kinds of shady tactics on them? We can see it in cases going on where cases get thrown out because they're tainted by corrupt cops. Baltimore filled with corruption. And Gary McNamara and Eric Harley act like, well, these black people, they don't actually grieve over each other's deaths. They just want to use this to hate on white cops. What the fuck? Get it through your fucking heads, you dumbasses, that black people are actually humans. And as outraged as you guys get for Trump being investigated, you guys act like he's the only victim in the country. It's weird, the irony of hearing you guys complain about a lack of due process when this is happening on a widespread scale for black people. Just look at how police systems work, how plea deals are made, how they pressure people into copying pleas for stuff, for crimes that there's no necessarily evidence for, but they know you can't fight it in court because it's going to be way too expensive, way too drawn out. And if the person does fight it in court, if they're found guilty, they're facing a massive penalty for it. Instead, just say, okay, plead guilty, leave them in poverty basically. Now their family may be out of a breadwinner, whatever the case. I don't know if people really listen to these guys or what. I don't hear them mentioned anywhere. I just happen to hear them because I drive home from work at 2 in the morning, 4 nights a week, and I listen to these pighead fucking whiners laugh about it. They just laugh like it's not even real. Like, these black people, when will they learn? You gotta accept that the stats don't show the pain that you feel when you see your family members and friends and neighbors dying from police action, so who cares? And then they just move on. It's like they just fly off to another topic. Like, wow, what's going on? Is there any bias in policing? Are we still dealing with police who are influenced by images of black people that scare them, that make them think that black people are criminals, that they're wild, that they're savage? Certainly Trump talks like black people are wild animals that need to be tamed. So what is it with you guys just ignoring all those statistics? What are you afraid of? You act like you just want to get to the truth and you don't care where it leads, but you guys need to avoid the truth in order to maintain your fucking racist, pig-headed positions. And by the way, I used to be just like you guys. I grew up conservative. I grew up with images on CNN and NBC and ABC and CBS. I didn't watch Fox News as a kid. I don't know if it was around when I was a kid, but I would see the images they would show, and eventually I would get the picture, and listening to people like Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity that, oh, well, these black people, they just hate cops. They just want to excuse crime for no reason. Wow, they're just so crazy. It's not that I had any animosity towards black people, but I just thought, well, this is a lot of anger being stirred up by race baiters who don't really care about civil rights. Oh, the civil rights battle is over. Somehow, hundreds of years of racism in America and the colonies just got wiped out in a couple of years by Martin Luther King just being a very nice person, very pleasant, didn't want to offend white people, didn't want to make it seem like white people were being a problem. He just wanted to be very nice and everybody would get along. I know what it's like to have to cherry pick data to reinforce my conservative worldview by just taking broad strokes and accepting these vague generalities about police interaction with black people, and then taking the crime statistics and say, well, look, black people commit more crime, so therefore they should respect the police, and then the crime will go down among them and they won't have to worry about bad interactions with police. When I was perfectly ready to ignore, just like you guys are, the fact that the way we count crime and who we enforce the law against counts towards skewing that number to make it easy for white supremacist fucking racist pigs like you to say, well, this is just cop hatred. These guys hate cops. It's not like they're even human to you. If they were human beings, the way you talk about Donald Trump, if what Donald Trump is going through under Mueller's investigation is bad and he's slandered and maligned and they just have an agenda against him within the intelligence agencies, just wait until you find out what an ordinary poor person, a Hispanic person, a black person has to contend with when they deal with a police encounter. Just wait. You're going to be shocked. You're going to be amazed. But I know you guys just want to pretend like, well, the statistics, I saw 26 million and the whites are disproportionately killed more than blacks. So, who cares? Let's move on. I mean, you guys aren't even interested in exploring that? You guys need to be ignorant to be as fucking racist as you are. I know what it's like. I grew up conservative. I was a fan of Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson. I saw Tucker Carlson in person. I waited in line before there was a line to see Crossfire when he hosted that with Paul Begala for like 3 hours just so I could get there in the front row. I was a fan of Larry Elder, Bernard Goldberg. I skipped class to meet Sean Hannity in college and get an autograph of his book. By the way, it wasn't even a good book. Even then, as an 18-year-old conservative, I thought, I don't see much good about this book. Rich Lowry, that one too, I was like, I don't see much profound about this book, but I was willing to spout off the talking points I heard from it. I know what it's like to be one of you douchebags, okay? You're fucking racist. Take it from me.